it's not my job to fix you.
Right.
And I think we run into this idea that, something went wrong in the marriage, I need to fix him. But if I go back to that first one, well, hold on, let me self-examine, how did I contribute to this? Then I'm shifting my focus from trying to fix you, because that is an exhaustive process. And honestly, it's unrealistic. It's not my job.
Blessings to everyone. How are y'all doing? I'm Dr. WeTheGarzas Jr.
And I'm Ruby Garza, licensed marriage and family therapist.
What a joy it is again to come and do this, right? We're learning. We're getting a hang of this.
Right.
I want to give a quick shout out to the guys behind the scenes because they're amazing.
They're amazing.
But we're excited to get into what's coming up next in our Marriage Matters podcast. Mm-hmm. And today, I think today's topic is like all topics. I think that everything that we discuss is relevant.
Right.
Everything that we discuss is important. But today, this is going to be good. Talk to us a little bit about it.
So today we are talking about emotional attunement in marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful. Say it again. Say it again.
Emotional attunement in marriage.
In marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, as you know, this is a marriage podcast, right? I have a question for you.
Okay.
Because, we focus on marriages and that's what we're going to do throughout all of this work that we're doing, right? But I guess my question would be, can this be applicable to, engaged couples, couples that maybe have been dating for some time now and are contemplating that next step of engagement than marriage? Yeah,
absolutely. When we're talking about the idea of emotionally attuning to someone, and we're going to get into the definition if you hang on tight just a little bit, but the idea of being emotionally attuned to any important relationship in your life is very necessary. So whether you're talking about your relationship with your parents or your relationship with a sibling or a best friend, it's important for us to be considerate in the way that we are emotionally leaning into the people that we care about and the people that we're doing life with. So yes, engaged couples, absolutely.
Good. And I like, you use a word, we talked about this yesterday, actually after lunch, right? The word leaning.
Right.
And that word, in itself can be dissected and be interpreted in so many neat ways, especially in a relationship. But to not get into that quite yet, maybe that'll be another topic for another time. Give us the definition of emotional attunement.
Okay, so emotional attunement is, so that we can understand it a little better, is the desire and the ability to understand and to respect your partner's inner world. That's part one of emotional attunement.
Okay.
But part two basically says that emotional attunement offers a blueprint for building and reviving trust.
Okay.
And I think that part is so important, because what it's saying is that in any marriage, whether you say, you've been married for 10 years and it's been great, you've both connected well, there's no issues with trust. Well, it's still important that you continue to build on the trust that you have.
Right.
But if your marriage has suffered infidelity or something that has maybe destroyed some of that trust that you have built for such a long time, emotional attunement works at reviving that trust.
Yeah. I like to use this phrase, if we're honest, right? I use it when I speak to the congregation. I use it when I'm speaking to people in a crowd. If we're honest, I think we've all been through a period where trust has been violated or where our trust has been questioned in our relationship. I think we all have navigated through something like that.
Right. Even unintentionally, especially in marriage, because you do life with that person every single day, day in and day out.
Right.
And so there's bound to be some parts that trust needs to be rebuilt.
Absolutely. Right now you're talking about a blueprint, and we're familiar with blueprints. We built our house. Things that we've done in the past, but I can't help but think, as a guitar player. Okay, maybe I don't play as much anymore, but as a guitar player, the tuning that comes with this instrument, right? I remember owning a couple of guitars that not only would you tune at the headstock, but you would also fine tune at the bridge because of the whammy bar, because of the bending of the neck or of the strings, right? And I can see, in a sense, how a marriage or even life can take you through things like that, where it's wavy, it's shaky, right? All these things. And so you would have to fine tune after the song, right? You have to go back in there and you fine tune. And it's not that it's really out of tune. It's just barely either sharp or barely flat. And that little fine tuning helps you get right back in.
See, and I think it's interesting that you make that reference because, so my husband, for those of you that don't know, he is an ex-guitar player.
Sure.
Sometimes he still tinkers with
sometimes
the guitars.
Sometimes they'll let me grab
but
it.
It's interesting that he makes this example because I have no idea what he's talking about because I don't have a relationship with guitars. I don't know them. So when he's talking about the fine tuning, someone could grab a guitar in front of me and strum it, and I would have no idea if it needed to be fine-tuned because I don't know it in that sense. And in relationships, if I don't know the person that I'm in a marriage with, then how do I know that our relationship needs fine-tuning unless I know that person? So we're going to get into it. I think I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but it is impossible. I need to say this. It is impossible to have healthy relational dynamics in a marriage without practicing attunement. It's impossible.
Right. And so I'm using the guitar analogy again, right? So bear with me, those of you that don't know what a guitar does, but for me it makes so much sense because, like I said, sometimes throughout a song the strings move, right? Your adjustment moves, where you're playing moves, and I see marriages in the same way. Sometimes you're up here, sometimes you're down there, sometimes you're somewhere in the middle of things. Things are moving back and forth, and so this should be in what I'm seeing right now. This emotional attunement should be a part of the marriage, right? Daily
part of this marriage. But before we get into this emotional attunement of what it is and what it consists of in the marriage, I think it's important to briefly talk about something that needs to be said. Every relationship has problems.
Even ours.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Every relationship. And it's important to say this because I think that when couples begin dating or even when they first get married and they experience conflict at some point, they lose hope or they think something's wrong with us. So I want to normalize that marriages are going to have problems even if you are the most compatible people in the world. Because we're different systems. I have a worldview that was shaped by my family and the rules that govern my home and the people that I came across every single day. And so did you. So you have two complicated human beings coming together. As wonderful as we might be, when we come together, it creates a little bit of conflict and pressure, but that's okay.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. We have to normalize the fact that we're not perfect people. And because we're not perfect people, we're never going to have a perfect marriage. So sometimes, we have to be true to ourselves and saying, hey, I like to say it this way. We want to be better. Right. We want to be better. Like, we have 20 plus years of marriage, right? And our marriage has been through a lot, right? From day one through day, however many thousands it's been now, right? We've been through so much. But I truly believe that our marriage is not what it was in year one. Nor is it what it was in year 5 or year 8 or year 15 or even year 20. I think that we've gotten better through the years because of conflict. And sometimes it's that conflict that gives you the opportunity to do stuff like this, to realign yourself.
To adjust, exactly. So, as we're talking about relational problems within marriages, I think it's wise for us to do 3 things. And we're going to talk about the first 2 briefly, and then we'll hit emotional attunement. But that first thing is that when there is conflict or you're experiencing a problem or an argument, whatever it is that you want to call it, we have to examine our own actions.
Yeah.
I think it's important because
that's hard to do, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But we have to ask ourselves, what could I have said? What could I have done? What could I have created to have contributed to this problem? So I think that it's very important to be self-aware of, maybe my mistakes in whatever happened, whatever ensued.
So I look at it as coming to a mirror.
Right.
Every morning, we brush our teeth, comb our hair. Some of you guys will comb your hair. Well, and we do all these things, right? We floss, we mouthwash, all these things, and we're looking at the mirror. We're examining what we look like for the day, right? Sometimes maybe it was a long night. We have some bags under our eyes, right? We try to take care of that. We want to be clean. But we're looking at a reflection. We're being very conscientious of what we look like at that time.
Awareness.
And I love that word. Self-awareness, I believe, for anyone is huge. Whether in a marriage, as a leader, as an employee, as an employer, being self-aware, right? You have this mirror that you're looking at, in which you're saying, okay, I'm really good at some things, but there are some things, believe it or not, that we all need to work on,
and that's okay,
and that's perfectly fine. So to me, when you talk about examining your own actions,
it's hard to do.
That's really hard to do.
No one wants to admit that they did something wrong. All these feelings stir up inside of us. So, and we'll get into that. But I really want you to go into that second one because I think it reverts back to that first one. So we'll talk a little bit about it. But so that was number one.
That was number one. Okay, so let's go to number two. All right, so we're talking about when experiencing relationship problems, it's wise for us to do. Number one was examine your own actions. Number two is adopt realistic expectations about your partner's willingness to change.
Absolutely. And I think it's important that you mention that because it's not my job to fix you.
Right.
And I think we run into this idea that, something went wrong in the marriage, I need to fix him. But if I go back to that first one, well, hold on, let me self-examine, how did I contribute to this? Then I'm shifting my focus from trying to fix you because that is an exhaustive process. And honestly, it's unrealistic. It's not my job.
Yeah, no, it's an exhausting game to play.
Right.
Because in all honesty, that's what you're doing. You're tallying up the score.
Right.
Right, like, what's his fault this time?
Right. So what we're doing there is we're setting up for, like you mentioned, a blame game. And in a blame game, no one wins.
Right. No one wins because, like you said right now, and we understand this, is that we all have problems. We all are imperfect. So the game is going to be a continual game.
Right.
To the day that we die, we have an opportunity to blame someone else for things that maybe we can't control on that end, but we can control on this end, right?
So it's important for us to be self-aware, but also to be aware of, your ability or your desire to change. Be realistic with the expectations that we have of each other.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go into the third one. Now, we did examine your own actions, number one. Number two was adopt realistic expectations about your partner's willingness to change.
Right.
And so give us a third one.
That third one is practicing that emotional awareness that we've been talking about and leading into. The attunement. What did I say?
Awareness.
Awareness, yes. No. Practice emotional attunement. So the idea behind this and what we really want to talk about is to approach the problem as a team. And I've often told my couples, I don't care if you need to go buy jerseys that look alike and put them on when you're having a problem, but you need to approach the problem as a team. You can't do this. We can't do this if we're not aware of what each of us is experiencing because of the problem. So as we do it, we have to hold my hand. We have to hold hands and approach the problem, reminding each other like, hey, we're not the problem. This thing in front of us is the problem. What can we do together to tackle it? Okay, so that's really important.